In this section, we're going to be taking a look at angles and their measure. We're going to be taking a look at putting angles in what's called standard position, which means when we're taking a look at our XY axis, we're going to be placing our initial side along the x-axis. Our vertex is going to be placed at the origin, and our terminal side is going to end in either one of the four quadrants or along one of the axes. Our angle is going to be that distance between the initial side and the terminal side, and you're going to see in this example I went ahead and labeled my angle. We're going to go ahead and call it theta. So let's go ahead and talk about our angles a little bit more. When we have an angle who is in standard position and our angle measure opens upward, which is what you see here in this angle, this would be an example of an angle that is positive. If we take a look at angle A, which is in blue, this is an example of an angle that opens downward from my initial side. This would be an example of a negative angle. And let's talk about a couple more key terms you're going to need in this section. If we're talking about right angles, obviously we're talking about an angle that is 90 degrees. A straight angle would form a straight line or be 180 degrees. And a quadrantal angle is one where the terminal side is going to lie along either the x-axis or the y-axis, not necessarily in one of the quadrants like you see in this example. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple examples where we are drawing each angle in standard position. So for our first angle, angle A, we are going to draw a 225 degree angle. Now, I went ahead and labeled my quadrants so we can begin talking about these. Quadrant 1 is the top right quadrant. Quadrant 2 is the top left. Quadrant 3 is the bottom left. And quadrant 4 is your bottom right quadrant. Let's go ahead and mark some key degree measures on our XY axes as well. Our positive x-axis is going to be where our initial side is, so we're going to let that be equal to 0 degrees. And then coming upward, our positive y-axis will be at 90 degrees. The negative x-axis will be over at 180 degrees. The negative y-axis will be 270, and if I complete my full circle, the positive x-axis again would be 360 degrees. And I could keep going if I was going to make multiple rotations with my angle. So now let's go ahead and draw our angle of 225 degrees. So keep in mind it's a positive angle, so I'm going to place my initial side on my positive x-axis, and my angle is going to be opening upward. And since I'm going to 225 degrees, that's somewhere between 180 and 270. It'll be exactly halfway between those. So my angle A is going to end up in quadrant 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at example B. This time we have negative 90 degrees. Keep in mind we're going to place our initial side on our positive x-axis, and then because our angle measure is negative, we're going to have to open our angle downward when we draw this angle. So here's a sketch of angle B. Notice this would be an example of a quadrantal angle because my terminal side ends up on the negative y-axis. Anytime you have a terminal side that ends up on any of the axes, x or y-axis, that would be an example of a quadrantal angle.